We're going to win so much, you may even get tired of winning.
April 2nd, 2025. President Donald J. Trump declares it Liberation Day, not from foreign invaders, but from foreign imports. Standing in the Rose Garden, Trump unveiled a sweeping tariff plan unlike anything seen in modern US history. A 10% blanket tariff on all imports, additional reciprocal tariffs on dozens of countries, and one very controversial chart. But what does this really mean for you, the average American buyer? Will your iPhone cost more? Will your car? And is this the start of another global trade war, or even a US recession? Let's break it all down. From tech to tractors, trade partners to penguins. Yes, penguins. This is your full guide to Trump's Liberation Day tariffs. On April 2nd, Trump announced a two-part tariff strategy. First, a 10% tariff on all imports. This alone is a huge move. But then comes the kicker, additional reciprocal tariffs on over 50 countries, with some facing duties as high as 45 to 50%. China got slammed with a total of 54%, Japan 24%, the EU 20%, and even tiny Madagascar nearly 49%. The idea, Trump says, is to match what other countries charge the US, hence reciprocal. His formula? If a country has a trade surplus with the US, they get a tariff roughly equal to half of that gap, percentage-wise. It's a dramatic break from decades of trade liberalization. Trump called it economic patriotism. Critics called it chaos. First question: what does this mean for regular people? The short answer: higher prices. The 10% across-the-board tariff raises costs on everything imported, from smartphones to sneakers, from canned food to flat-screen TVs. If you rely on imports, and let's be real, we all do, you'll probably be paying more. Economists say the average American household could face thousands more in expenses each year. Inflation? Yep, it could spike again. And the poorest Americans are hit hardest since they spend a bigger chunk of their income on basic goods. Even the stuff made in America? It might get more expensive too, since manufacturers often use foreign parts. Other countries aren't just sitting back. China promised to resolutely counterattack, likely through their own tariffs, currency tweaks, or even cutting off access to key materials like rare earths. The EU, outraged, European leaders warned of retaliatory tariffs, WTO complaints, and higher prices across the board. Japan and South Korea, furious. Australia called it an unfriendly act. Even America's allies are pissed. Canada and Mexico got partial exemptions, but they're still fuming, calling it a betrayal of the USMCA trade deal. Everyone's bracing for a global trade war. Some are retaliating, some are negotiating, but no one's happy, and the situation is evolving fast. On April 7th, China officially fired back, announcing a 34% retaliatory tariff on all US imports. But that wasn't all. Beijing also blacklisted a dozen American companies, suspended imports of specific agricultural products, and banned the export of key rare earth elements to the US. President Trump responded almost immediately via a Truth Social post, escalating the stakes. He warned that if China doesn't roll back its retaliatory tariffs by April 8th, the US will slap an additional 50% tariff on all Chinese imports starting April 9th. In that same message, he also declared that all negotiations with China would be terminated if they did not comply, adding that talks with other nations who respect the US would continue. In the same breath, Trump told reporters in the Oval Office during a meeting with Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu that America was done being taken advantage of. According to insiders, Trump sees this economic showdown as a reset, a deliberate disruption of decades-old trade dynamics to force a better deal. National Economic Council Chairman Steve Moran reinforced that point, saying the tariffs would fund tax cuts and reduce the deficit. And now, businesses, investors, and governments are all holding their breath, waiting to see who blinks first. Let's start with tech. Tariffs on imported parts and devices mean higher prices for electronics. Your next laptop, tablet, phone, expect a bigger price tag. Apple, Samsung, Dell, they all rely on global supply chains. and now those chains just got more expensive. And if China retaliates by cutting off rare earths, that could hit production even harder. Next, agriculture. US farmers are bracing for the worst. Why? Because countries hit by US tariffs often strike back by hitting American crops. China, Europe, others, they could all target soybeans, pork, wheat, corn. That hurts American farmers hard. Meanwhile, tariffs on imported farm equipment, fertilizer and chemicals raise the cost of running a farm. So it's a double whammy: less revenue, higher costs. Then there's autos. A car today is made from parts sourced globally. With new tariffs, US automakers face higher costs for materials. Stellantis announced layoffs. GM says it'll build more in the US, but that takes time. Across the board, companies are scrambling. Importers are facing massive cost increases. Supply chains are breaking down. And uncertainty is making businesses think twice before hiring, investing, or expanding. Markets dropped hard the day of Trump's announcement. Even Trump-friendly areas like the rural Midwest might suffer most. They're tied to farming and manufacturing, both deeply affected by trade. Trump, of course, says everything will be fine.
What's going to happen with the market, I can't tell you, but I can tell you our country has gotten a lot stronger. And eventually, it'll be a country like no other. It'll be the most dominant country economically in the world.
Markets will boom, he said. Economists? Not so sure. Where do we go from here? Trump's Liberation Day tariffs are either a bold act of economic nationalism or a reckless gamble, maybe both. They've thrown global trade into chaos, rattled markets, and put American wallets on the line. Whether this brings factories back to Ohio or just raises prices for families in Oklahoma remains to be seen.